Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast presented by Prize Picks. I am your host, Chris Raybon, joined by my guy, Sean Koerner, here to break down every matchup for week 2. Sean, we already had the waiver episode yesterday on the Fantasy Flex feed, but how are you feeling now that you really crunched your numbers, looked through some data, got your projections popping off?
Yeah, so I feel really good now that we have data. Week 1 is always tough because we're relying on beat reports, speculation, things like that. But now we get to crunch the numbers. We have data. That's why I love week 2. We have a ton of overreactions. Players I think probably underperformed that I think are going to break out week 2. So just a lot of exciting stuff this week. How about you?
Yeah, it's always kind of, I think it takes me the longest to do my projections in week 1 because you have all this new data. You still have like your priors from last season. You're looking through everything and kind of reacting to it as you go. So there's a lot of numbers that kind of surprise me as I look through them more. So I'm sure we'll touch on all of them, but yeah, it's great to have, some snap counts in there, kind of see some jobs that we thought were up for grabs in the preseason that we didn't really know what was going on. It was good to see some kind of hard, evidence of what's going on. So I think week 2, that's when the season really starts. I feel like week 1 is kind of, it's such a clusterfuck, I guess, it's just so random.
We had a very exciting week 1.
Oh my goodness, that Ravens game
week this year.
That Ravens game was one of my favorite games that I've seen in a while, just because you had so many things, you had Lamar Jackson, even though it didn't necessarily show early on in the scoreboard, but I thought he was playing like a different quarterback. They were talking about it a little on air, and then I thought the Raiders defense looked better than it's looked in like 2 decades. Max Crosby looked kind of like Chandler Jones, just he didn't get the sacks, but I feel like he was in the backfield every play. And then the way that game ended, and then Gruden trying to kick the field goal, and then,
oh my god,
getting a penalty, and then saying, "Nah, fuck that."
So I was texting you. I was putting together a second half Prize Pick 4-pick power play, and nailed it. But I had 4 unders, so I just wanted the game to end, and it went to overtime. And I had so many of these props almost go over. It was so nerve-wracking, but I did it. So check out the second half lines at Prize Picks. That was really fun.
I saw that. The Josh Jacobs one was super high. It was kind of like almost like what they did in the first half, or like if they did poorly in the first half, like kind of like still the projection for the whole game to kind of even it out. So yeah, those are some interesting lines. So definitely an edge. I think people should check those out. Getting some second half action in if you're watching a game. There's always ways to get more action on a game. So
yes,
that's a good call.
I'm always looking for more ways to get action in a game.
Absolutely. All right. Speaking of action, let's get right into the week 2 action. Let's start with the Thursday night football game. Giants, Washington football team game. I bet the under at 43.5. It's already down to 41. Washington favored by 3.5 on Thursday night. And Sean, the prop I'm going to throw out to you is Saquon Barkley over under 52.5 rushing yards at Prize Picks.
I think this is a pretty good line. I'm projecting it right around 52.5, but I'm going to have to lean under here. We were ahead of the fade Barkley movement this offseason. We kind of figured he would start off slow, and that appears to be the case. So I'm worried about this quick turnaround. They just played Sunday. Now they play Thursday, so I'm worried they're going to limit his workload again. This Washington defensive line going against the Giants offensive line is a huge mismatch. So I just don't know where Barkley's going to get, running lanes. So if anything, they're going to dump it off to him in order to generate yards. So I'm going under on this line, even though I am pretty much in line with it. I think he has a low floor still.
Yeah, so we got 71% of the backfield carries, but he only ran a route on 37% of the dropbacks. So he's hard to peg because they're actually using him a little bit more in the running game and less in the passing game than maybe we would have thought. Devontae Booker got 33% of the routes run per dropback, and then Gary Brightwell got 16. So it was like a committee when it came to the receiving, and maybe that's because they didn't want to get in situations where he had a pass block. I don't know. but I really don't know what to do with him. I would lean under as well, just because you're facing another tough defensive front. I have the median projected like right around 51 and a half. So just under on the line, but 13 carries I haven't projected for. It's hard to project them for many more than that. I have about 15 touches. So yeah, that's and I think that's a floor. I think that's what kind of you were looking for last week too, right? Like a ceiling of 15 touches, not a floor, a ceiling of 15 touches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Any who do you like in DFS or start sit? Like, who's your DFS cheat code here?
I think the cheat code in this game is Antonio Gibson. I was very encouraged by his week 1 usage. He saw 20 carries for 90 yards. I said, last season he was still learning how to play running back. He's a converted wide receiver. And the coaching staff was saying it's night and day this year. I think he's going to be an excellent runner. And then we saw him run 13 routes, run per dropback, and JD McKissick only ran 9. So he actually outsnapped JD McKissick in those passing situations. And
McKissick didn't get a target either, I believe.
I think he got one. Like, he had one catch for 1 yard or something. Like, he basically did nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's really where Gibson's massive ceiling is going to come into play, where, they were hinting he could be the Christian McCaffrey role in this offense this year. So all signs kind of point to that. So I'm getting in on him before a huge game. And, with Tyler Heineke under center, I think they're going to lean on him even more. So I'm loading up on Gibson here.
Yeah, for me, the cheat code is going to be Logan Thomas. I like Gibson as well. I think that's a great play. But Logan Thomas, 92% of routes run in week 1. And then you look at Heineke and, in his, he targeted Logan Thomas pretty much twice as much as he targeted anybody else last year. And so I think with this, kind of quick turnaround, backup quarterback making a start here, you're going to lean on your tight end. And the Giants gave up an NFL high 10 catches to tight ends against Denver. And they gave up 85 yards and a touchdown. And could have been even more if Albert Okwuegbunam didn't fumble near the goal line. So I like this matchup for Thomas. The routes, you don't get higher than that from really any tight end. Although we got to talk about Mark Andrews later, because when I saw his numbers, it really surprised me. But Logan Thomas near the top of the league in routes run for tight end. So love Thomas against the Giants. Let's go to the Saints and the Panthers. And man, Jameis Winston, the passing yard under for the season may still be good, but the touchdown under is already in jeopardy after he threw 5. So I'm going to throw out a prop, and it's not as high as you would think, maybe given like regression, but 229.5 passing yards over under at Prize Picks for Jameis.
This is definitely too low. And, he only had 148 passing yards against the Packers last week because it was a blowout, because of those 5 touchdown passes. And, should be a closer game this week. I don't think we're going to blow them out by 30.
Wait. If the Saints,
yeah, I know, right?
The Packers 38-3. Then that means they're going to beat the Panthers like 76 to 1.5. Like,
yeah, well,
the Packers got to be twice as better than the Panthers.
Yeah, if you've never watched football, you would just assume that that's how easy it is. But the Saints are 3.5-point favorites. So I'm going to assume it's going to be closer. Although if they do win by 30, I won't be surprised. But, the Panthers allowed, Zach Wilson to throw for 258 yards. So this is not a good defense. And I'm projecting Winston closer to 255. I think he's going to be much more efficient in this offense going forward. And I think he has a pretty high floor here. And 229 just seems too low. It seems like an overreaction to week 1. So I think they're going to lean on Winston a bit more here. And yeah, I love this over.
I got to actually say, I like the Panthers defense. I think it is going to be a pretty good defense. They held the Jets to under 5 yards of play. They held them to I want to say under 5 yards of pass attempt and under 3 yards of carry.
JC Horn looked really good. Yeah, I'm not saying they're the worst defense in the league, but not good enough. If they finish
above average DVOA. I'm saying this right. I think the side of the ball that everyone thinks they're going to be like this great offensive team like for some reason. I actually think they'll be better on D than offense. Sam Darnold did not look great to me in week 1. But I at the same time, I do think that this number's a little bit low, just given that you don't expect the team to go 38-3 every game. You don't expect to, I mean, he was wasn't he stuck on under 100 before that late long touchdown pass?
Had to be.
Yeah. So
Had to be. Yeah. And Taysom really wasn't involved as much as I thought he would be. So, I mean, it really comes down to what's your projected baseline for Jameis Winston just going forward? Like 240, 250 yards?
Let's see. Jameis Winston's normal baseline would be about 245. So yeah, right in there. Right, a little below average, but nothing too crazy. Okay, so for DFS, who do you like as a cheat code?
So last week I wasn't too high on Marquez Callaway. I was definitely worried about the matchup with Jair Alexander. That's why I said Juwan Johnson might be a sneaky play. That worked out well. But I'm buying the dip here with Marquez Callaway because Jameis Winston looks so good. So I think he's going to benefit from that. Yes, the Panthers defense might not be the worst in the league, but I think that it's a better matchup. He should improve on his 1 catch and 14-yard line from last week. So I think, the market might move on him, a bit here. Could be, not on too many teams this week. So I'm looking to buy low here. Think he and Jameis can absolutely connect on a couple deep balls. Then we see him, become the kind of wide receiver 3 we thought he'd be going into the season.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because the Panthers did get roasted by Corey Davis, who's the Jets' #1 receiver. And Callaway ran a route on 88% of the Saints dropbacks, which is interesting because they didn't, it was a blowout. And you saw the Packers obviously are coming from behind, so they were throwing more, but still, Callaway's numbers in terms of usage look good. The matchup did him no favors. And the Panthers look like a much more burnable team by #1 receivers. So I like Callaway. And I also like Alvin Kamara because I think he has a chance again to finish as the #1 running back this week. He's gonna be competing with CMC in the same game, obviously, but I think it's gonna be that kind of show because Kamara carries are up a little bit compared to what he usually gets, 65% for him. Jones 35%, and the routes are over 70%. So he's still getting very good usage for a running back, and this offense is gonna lean on him. So love Kamara as that stud running back because you're getting a little bit of a discount on a guy like CMC up there. So, I love taking Alvin Kamara anytime he's kind of right in that, top tier, but not the top price guy. And you get a pretty good discount there. So Alvin Kamara and Callaway, of course, love him as well. Let's go to the Texans and the Browns. Browns 12.5-point favorites. The total is 48. So the market's not buying Houston's week 1 success at all. Tyrod Taylor at Prize Picks, his passing yard line is 220 and a half. You going over or under that one?
So I think he's going to come back down to earth a little bit this week. But I still like the over here. I'm projecting this closer to 235. He was chucking around the field last week. He had a 9.5 ADOT, which is the 6th highest. And why not? I mean, the Texans should have fun this year. They're probably going to be one of the worst teams. Why not just air it out? And Tyrod has always been kind of a sneaky, play in that regard where he does like to throw it deep. He has Brandon Cooks. I think Nico Collins will eventually break out. Didn't happen week 1, but there is potential here. This should be a pass-heavy game script. I do expect the Browns to basically dominate them here. So I think 220 is a bit too low. So again, I'm gonna have to go with the over for the QB prop here.
I like Tyrod this week, but I actually still have him under I have him around 215 for the passing yards. It's just hard to project a ton of passing yards for me and Tyrod Taylor. And I still have a lot of respect for this Cleveland defense. I mean, they played Kansas City in week 1, so you're not going to really be able to look at the numbers and glean much from it. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, they had their way, but I think Brandon Cooks is still a long way from Tyreek Hill. So I don't know if Cleveland blows them out, but I just don't know if Tyrod's going to get that many yards. I think Houston's going to want to try to run the football and kind of play it that way. So I'm going under for Tyrod. Who's your DFS cheat code?
I'm going Nick Chubb here. This is just a classic Nick Chubb smash spot. Last year he averaged 78 total yards and losses, 109 in wins. So, this is a spot where, yeah, I agree that the Browns probably won't blow them out. I think the Texans proved last week that they're a lot better than we thought they were, or, the Jaguars are just the worst team ever. But I think they keep it close enough where Chubb potentially sees 20 plus carries. He really doesn't see that too often. Last season, he only had 2 games where he saw 20 plus carries because, Kareem Hunt is the best backup in the league. They do like to work him in. So I think they keep it close enough where we potentially see that ceiling game from Chubb. This is definitely a 2 touchdown potential game for Chubb. And how much I love Nick Chubb going up against the Texans defense. This is just an absolute smash spot. I don't even care what price he is. You just jam him in. I don't care, how many people roster him. You jam him in. This is the ultimate smash spot for Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I like Chubb. He is pricey though, so I'm still gonna
don't care.
I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna go with. I mean, I would play Kamara over Chubb. That's what I'm saying. Like, and it's you don't have to pay that much more for Kamara, but I still do like Tyrod as a cheat code because of his price. There are a lot of quarterbacks that are significantly higher priced that you're also going to want to play that are going to get the majority of the ownership. But there is still some potential here for Tyrod. He looked good in week 1. The offense looked good. And, Cleveland can put up points. And so if Chubb is putting up points, I think it's still good for Tyrod. I think he's going to run around a little bit. And that's really why I like him. You're getting that rushing upside there. And, you're not really getting that from, a guy like Mac Jones, who's in that same range in terms of salary. So I still like Tyrod in this one. I think he can do it as a dual threat on the ground. He's always going to miss some throws when I say miss throws, I don't mean with inaccuracy. I mean, literally not see guys running open. So that's kind of why I'm not too high on his passing yards, but I think he will run around. I think he will, the more dropbacks he has to take, if they get down, I think the more rushing yards you're going to get because he's going to scramble a lot. That's kind of what we saw him play in week 1. So yeah, I like Tyrod as a cheat code, but yeah, Nick Chubb, I mean, he's such a smash play. But it's just like when I see Kamara sitting right there, I'm like, all right, I might have to go Kamara over him. Maybe I can jam them both in. I haven't. That
might be the play.
Yeah.
Because I can't fault you for taking Kamara, but yeah, finding a way to get both in. There's some other cheap options out there. It should be easy to go, stars and scrub approach this week.
Yeah, I think early in the season you tend to have that receiver value because the market hasn't adjusted to the routes run and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes guys just have tough matchups in week 1, which we'll talk about right now because the Bengals are playing the Bears. And before we get to Allen Robinson, let's start with Jamar Chase because he surprised me. I was kind of on a wait and see week with him. I wasn't sure that he would even be like a full-time starter. T. Higgins only played, I think it was 22% of the snaps last week 1. But lo and behold, Jamar Chase comes out. He silences all the doubters and critics, 100 yards, touchdown for him. And the Bengals pull the upset. So great debut for Jamar Chase. Where do you have his receiving yardage line for week 2?
Yeah, so I was with the public in terms of like worrying about him. But once I saw his prop go down to 40.5, I just had to buy the dip. And thank God I did. He looked really good. So, we're going to see the market adjust upward. Unfortunately, we don't have a line out right now, so we kind of want to talk about it before we do. So I'm setting this line right around 59.5. Are you going over or under that?
Let's see. What do I have for Chase? I'm at 57, so I'm like slightly under. I don't hate, it's a good one. That's a good line. Like, I don't think I would take action either way on that one. But I mean, this potential is certainly there for another big game. But I mean, Chicago was really interesting in week 1 because you thought that they would have big issues at cornerback. And it felt more like outside of that play to early in the game to Van Jefferson, where the safeties just kind of both fell down, or they just like whiffed on the tackle and he just got up and ran untouched. It actually seemed like they held up decently well. You know, obviously Stafford was able to get a couple of big plays here and there, but you know, it's the Bears are, it's still hard for me to peg the Bears. So I would stay away from the line that you set, because it's a great line. But I think Chase is he's still a wide receiver 3 at least. So like I would start him. I wouldn't have no issue starting him this week. But yeah, I just don't know what to do about the Bears defense yet. Like it's still kind of a mystery to me.
Yeah, and I think Joe Burrow looked really good in week 1. So that's great news, obviously, for T. Higgins. We love T. Higgins. Great news for Jamar Chase, and he could probably support all 3 receivers going forward. So it was really good sign just to see Joe Burrow look calm, cool, and collected. So that's why I'm very bullish on the Bengals receivers now. Oh
yeah. CJ Uzomah in my initial projections is like tight end 12 or something. So yeah, he's up there.
You have really come around on the Uzomah.
Yeah, I mean it's probably just he probably just ran a lot more routes than the other tight end. So I may adjust him down a little bit, but the point is he's right. He's there. Like he's getting enough. It's all routes at tight end. So I mean,
he was just running empty route. He saw his target share was like 9% when he was on the field. So he was just running wind sprints. It seems
but
like.
I mean that'll like it's tight ends though. Like you have to project the same like around the same target share per route.
Get, like the game-winning catch too, like to set up.
Oh yeah. So yeah. You know, he's in for like 100-yard game this week.
Yes. Don't play him in fantasy though.
I'm playing him.
Okay.
No. Maybe in DFS. Let's see. Chico. Who do you like? Bengals, Bears.
So I think this is a buy low situation for Bears receivers, specifically Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney. But I think this is the week to load up on A-Rob because he had a predictably quiet week 1. You know, he went 6 catches for 35 yards, but he was going up against Jalen Ramsey. You know, this is a week where we could see Justin Fields play a significant portion of the game. We don't really know how this is going to work out. But I think that would be really good news for A-Rob. But either way, like he should feast on this Bengals defense. Just coming off a tough matchup. This is a squeaky wheel situation where he's priced, you know, cheap enough where he's absolutely worth it. I'm jamming him in to a ton of lineups this week.
Yeah, I mean, how good was that Rams defense? I mean, the game plan was just nuts. It was like, all right, we're going to let David Montgomery run all over us. And they didn't even – the craziest thing about Robinson and his bad numbers were that they didn't even have Ramsey on him every snap. Like, Ramsey was playing that star role. Ramsey was doing more work in, like, the run game, you know, making tackles for loss. He was all over the place. Like, they had other guys on Robinson, and he still – wasn't able to really do anything of note to help his quarterback, Andy Dalton. So, I mean, the Rams are going to be they're still a scary defense to play. He goes right from Staley to Raheem Morris, but like that Rams D is not one to play with.
Yeah. And you've been kind of pointing that out with Raheem Morris over the past couple seasons that he's a sneaky good coach. So I agree. And I wish I would have known that before I took the under David Montgomery rushing prop. I paid for that dearly, but yeah, it definitely makes sense to kind of invite the run. And I thought they, you know, played the Bears perfectly. I don't think the Bengals are going to stand as good a chance this week against Allen Robinson though.
Yeah. And you know what I think it is with the Rams, just like not to get off topic, but it kind of applies to the Bears too, who play in this game. They're all kind of proponents of that Vic Fangio defense. And that's like the 2 safeties back. And there's still the league is still more cover 3, you know, one single high safety, generally cover 1, cover 3. But like, because it's like the smartest guys, Fangio, Staley, are doing that cover 2. Number 1, I think it's going to start to be a trend again. But number 2, I think you have to take notes of that in fantasy, because those defenses that play that 2 deep shell, what's going to happen is even if there's a called pass play in the huddle a lot of the time, the quarterback will check to a run if you see those 2 safeties sitting back there. And so that's why a guy like Montgomery, you know, was able to have a good game, even though the Bears had a terrible offensive night and got blown out. You know, you don't usually expect a running back
exactly.
to have a good game, but
you don't expect that.
Yeah, like that's the one situation I think we have to monitor when there's like, you know, we usually just kind of say, okay, underdog running backs are not the, you know, we're not looking for underdogs, but really there's going to be certain situations, I think, when teams are underdogs against good defenses, you know, if the line can hold up, you know, that they're going to have some success just because teams are going to invite. And Kansas City's done this a lot too. Spagnuolo plays a lot of cover two, a lot of, you know, and even before him, Kansas City was just like, run on us. We have a good offense, just run on us. Like, so, you know, that's something to watch and monitor in fantasy. I think is gonna kind of get
so
people
Jonathan Taylor this week against the Rams.
But that's what I'm really interested to see is like, and we'll talk about that game. So I won't even get into it now, but yeah, I like Aaron Robinson as well. In short, I think he's a great mid-range wide receiver. Let's go to Raiders, Steelers. Steelers favored by looks like 5.5 now. So that line was sitting at 6, and then Raiders got that win, moves down 0.5 point. The
Makes
total,
sense.
yeah, right. The total's 47. Najee Harris, he got every carry in the backfield. So workhorse wise, usage wise, he did what we thought he was going to do. Unfortunately, both teams on offense, what a struggle in that Pittsburgh Buffalo game. It was not pretty. It was not pretty. But I mean, Mike Tomlin rode unders when the totals between 43 and 51 are now 43 and 15. So we should have probably expected that. Like,
was the wind a factor in that game? I remember turning it on and I saw a piece of trash just swirling like this.
Hey, don't talk about the Steelers offensive line like that. Yeah, I guess so, right? I don't remember like specifically saying the wind is screwing everything up.
And it was just like brief moments, like there was gusts, and it must have affected it enough because I mean Josh Allen was slinging around. He was chucking it deep, and he just missed on a couple of them. So that's why we'll get to that eventually. But I think Josh Allen is set up for a breakout week. But yeah, I'm willing to overlook that game a little bit in that regard. But yeah, so I wanted to go over the Najee Harris prop. I don't see a market for it yet on Prize Picks, but obviously they're going to offer it. So let's try to figure out what we would pick it to. Right now, I have his projection for 58.5 rushing yards. And not only did he get every rush attempt, he literally played every single snap.
Yeah, I have this at 65. I think you're a couple yards too low here because I just think this was a defensive struggle in week 1. I do think to an extent you have to throw it out. I don't think the Steelers' offensive line is great. That's always going to be an issue. But the Raiders, the defense, you know, if they had a vulnerability against Baltimore, and I know Baltimore, you know, the run game is their thing, but you're still talking about them playing with like 8th-string running backs. Baltimore was able to run all over the Raiders. I mean, Latavius Murray rumbled in for one. You had Tyson Williams with the long run.
Thank God.
Right. You know, it was, I mean, no, but it was, that's, and I don't, it's not the same scheme. Like it's that they're playing a cover 3. So it's not like they're trying to give up the run. So I think it will be more difficult, but anytime you have a guy get 100% of the carries, play pretty much every snap in the backfield, it's just hard to project him too low. Like you would just have to knock his efficiency down to like ridiculous levels.
That's kind of what I'm doing here, though. I mean, this offensive
against the Raiders, though.
The Raiders' run defense. Look, I mean, like you said, they were facing the Ravens. You can't expect, you know, greatness against the Ravens. But I thought they held their own. And you know, Najee Harris had to earn almost every single yard. 35 of his 45 yards were after contact. I mean, this offensive line paid him no favors. So I think that's
good though. That like you want the yardage after contact because that's actually more predictive. Like the yards before is going to kind of regress to the mean all crazy. That's what makes yards per carry.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's a good back, but the offensive line is not like
it's not
Nick
good.
Chubb is the perfect example of like a good running back and a good offensive line. That's why he's the only running back I ever project over 5 yards per carry. unless it's Derrick Henry
I'm
against
so
the
mad you're gonna
Jaguars.
get that right again. Like I just can't do it. I just can't do it, man.
He's at 5.5.
Like math just won't let me.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying with the offensive line, that helps. So that's why Najee Harris, I agree, it's a good stat for him, but that is a bad sign for the offensive line. It looked really bad. We knew it was going to be horrible, but it was really bad. So he's gonna have to fight for his life back there. He's talented. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but he's still my cheat code, even though of the offensive line. So
yeah, there's just too many. Like running back to our volume, that's another reason why I'm like, okay, like we knew Najee Harris was going to have some of those kind of games. And then there was another play, I don't know if you saw, where they lined him up, and I think it was in the slot, maybe even out wide around the goal line. And he caught the ball and still didn't get in, but he caught it like at the 1 or the 2. So like he's right on the precipice of having like a huge game that he just, it was just a slog of a game in Buffalo. So yeah, I think you'll see better days for Harris. Love him as my cheat code as well. Let's keep it moving. Bills, Dolphins, Bills, 3.5 points. Road favorites. The total is 48. Interesting, since both of these teams played low-scoring games in week 1. But who is there's no prize picks lineup that we love, so let's go with who are you going with for the prop in this one?
yeah, so I wanted to set a line for Will Fuller here.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know, right? This is tough because Tua had a mixed game. His 9.4 ADOT ranked 7th on the week, but he only completed 3 passes beyond 10 yards. So is that good news or bad news for Will Fuller?
Bad news.
Well, obviously, but
absolutely. No, I mean more so for like the future of Tua. Like you would. I mean, but it's a tough defense. So let's give him another week.
Yeah. Well, and this. My point is, last year I like Josh Allen because Stephon Diggs was going to help him in the deep game. Like, will Fuller help make Tua a better deep passer? That's kind of my question here. So let's try to set this line here. Right now, I have his receiving yards at 43.5. Are you going over or under that?
That does sound low though. Yeah, I'm more so at about 48, 49. So yeah, I'm about 5 yards over that one. I mean, I guess the real question is, how many routes are you projecting? Because I'm at.
Oh, good question. I got 80.
I kind of left Waddle alone, and he was at 93. So that could be maybe I'm too high on him, but I knocked Parker down.
Nah, they got to keep Waddle on the field. I have 90% for Waddle, 90% for Parker. We're getting rid of basically all of Albert Wilson, 60%, and all of Jakeem Grant, 15%. That's all going to Fuller. So I have 80% for Fuller, more 11 formations, less 2 tight end formations. So I got 80% for Fuller.
Yeah, I have him at 78. So okay. I'm actually not far off. I guess I'm higher on Tua. This is for now.
Or you're not factoring in the median. Because I'm
no, I've knocked out. Oh, okay. I did.
Okay, yeah, because I'm projecting.
My mean projection for Fuller is 54.
Okay, got it. So we're
in alignment. Waddle 53, Fuller 54, Parker 51. So they're all in that same range. Like it's a crapshoot. I think Fuller's a really good player. So I mean, there's even a chance that he doesn't have to catch a deep one. But at the same time, I have him ranked wide receiver 50. So it's not a great week to start him. And last week on my matchup column for the Sunday slate, I thought Juju Smith-Schuster would end up leading the Steelers in receiving, which he did. I think Deontay got the touchdown though, but Buffalo, I think they're going to kind of funnel the ball inside. I think you want to attack, Teron Johnson on the inside. I don't think you want to go at White and who is it, Wallace on the other side. So yeah, I just, it might be a 4 catches for 55-yard type of day. I guess that's, if he gets a touchdown, great, but not really a confident play for Fuller. I think he will help Tua as a passer, period, because Will Fuller is just a really good receiver.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not even about deep passing. It's just having Will Fuller on your team is much better than not having him.
That's exactly my point, is like, none of these receivers are playable right now, although I do love Waddle, and Mike Gesicki's unplayable right now. And I have 2 of my top 20. So I think that if anything, it just makes Tua a good QB play, but that's about it. Like there's just too many weapons right now, and not enough yards to go around. But I think he will help Tua kind of reach that next level.
I just thought of like a worst case scenario. Like,
Oh,
okay, so you know how we're all looking for Tua to like throw it downfield more? And he's also coming, you know, he had the injury last year. What if Will Fuller slides him some of those PEDs and then they just both get suspended again?
well, you know, I'll take it. Then just play Tua until he gets caught, right?
like the beast Tua, like the Will Fuller 2020 Tua, just like goes crazy from like
I'll take
10
it.
weeks and then just
to see a couple of good games from Tua would be worth it.
I mean, yeah, we're kind of waiting. Like they've been few and far between. Yeah, I haven't quarterback 17, so I'm not totally down on him either. But I guess what I'm saying is I think we need another wait and see week. Number one, it's still a pretty good defense that they're facing. Number two, we don't know exactly how the routes between Waddle, Parker, and Fuller are going to break out. So probably not a game I can target too heavily in DFS just because of that. I think, and you're going to talk about a guy, Josh Allen. I think he's always in play. So talk about him as your cheat code.
Yeah, so he's the cheat code here. I think this is a buy low opportunity. And you know, the Steelers defense did look really good last week, and this Dolphins defense is really good. That's why I picked them last week against the Patriots, plus 3.5. But you know, Josh Allen was just airing it out last week. His 9.9 ADOT was super high. He only completed 59% of those passes. I think a couple more of those hit, he would have had a big game. So you know, against the Dolphins last year, he just torched them. He had the 417 yard, 4 touchdown game in week 2. Week 17, he only played the first half and he put up 224 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Oh, I remember that.
So, I mean, this is a great matchup for Allen. And I think a good stacking partner is Cole Beasley this week. He played nearly every snap. So he's, you know, a full-time player now. And I think he has the best matchup on the inside in the slot. He should be able to avoid Byron Jones, Xavier Howard. I think he could have a 10+ catch game. So he has massive upside. Typically, you know, Cole Beasley is a high floor player, but I think this week his ceiling is elevated. So I kind of like a sneaky stack of Josh Allen and Cole Beasley here.
Yeah, I have, and this is why initial projections are interesting because I essentially do them and then jump right on the pod. But I have Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders in my top 36. Like they are both wide receiver threes.
Yeah, because Manny Sanders played over 90% of the snaps, and Gabe Davis
61. Yeah.
So I heard people saying sell high because he scored. I'm not selling high on Gabe Davis. The reason we like Gabe Davis here is if any one of these receivers, well, if one of these he scores a lot for a guy that but I mean, you can't trust him right now necessarily, you know, to score a touchdown every week. But if any one of these other 3 receivers go down, I mean, he's an instant wide receiver 3. Not many other receivers, you know, are bench stashes that kind of have that upside. So I would not sell high on Gabe Davis. I would just keep him on your bench, and you're kind of waiting for the opportunity to rise. But right now, yeah, it's hard to trust him because he isn't running enough routes at 60% to really bank on a touchdown every week. But I still love his upside.
Yeah, like I think long term, like they got to knock Sanders down and give Gabe Davis more routes. Like I think Gabe Davis is just a better player at this point. But 98% of the routes for Beasley, I mean that sticks out to the point where, I mean, I have Singletary as my cheat code. He played, he got 80% of the backfield opportunities, carries, and targets in week 1. Of course, Zach Moss was a healthy scratch, so I think it's great for Singletary. We saw the Patriots have success running the ball on the Dolphins. If not for a couple fumbles, I think it would have been a lot better, obviously, for New England. They could have kept running it. But, you know, it's really a situation where you're getting a back here now that's going like 70, 80% workload. That's just not too it's kind of hard to find. So the Dolphins allowed 194 yards on 38 touches to Patriot backs last week. You know, we saw Josh Allen kind of throwing it around the yard. You know, didn't work out quite as well as they may have hoped. I think you're going to continue to see Singletary be a part of this game plan. You know, he looked great in preseason, and you hate to read into that because it's like usually that doesn't mean shit but like
It did here.
Yeah, and shout to my dude Justin Boone. He talked about that. I think it was on our sleepers pod, or maybe I was on a pod with him, but I forget where it was. But he talked about Singletary, and you know, lo and behold, Moss is the healthy scratch. So love Singletary, but I mean Cole Beasley has to get an honorable mention for running 98% of the routes per drop back in week one as well. So there's a lot. You could go anywhere. I mean, and it's crazy. You could just go anywhere in Buffalo here. Like,
yeah, exactly. Since
everyone.
you're getting my cheat code, some love. Let me just say something real quick about yours. His usage was very good, and he actually missed a few plays. I need to go back and see, but he had a shoulder injury, so they pulled him out for a little bit. I think they intended to use him even more than they did. So yeah, like Zach Moss being inactive, and then Singletary's usage, like they view him as the workhorse back. And when you have a workhorse back on an offense as good as the Bills, yes, you know, the Bills running backs haven't really been useful for fantasy, but Singletary has some serious upside if this trend continues.
Right. And it's just, especially after week one, like, you know, the way everything went down, like there's no reason not to use not to keep Singletary involved, just, you know, to keep defenses honest. So they're not sitting back on those throws for Josh Allen. So yeah, it's a good spot for Singletary. Matchup is there. Let's go to the Rams and the Colts. If you got the look ahead line, you're feeling pretty good because I think it was Rams by 2 or 2.5. It's up to 4, even though they're on the road. The total 47.5. Robert Woods took a backseat to Cooper Kupp in week one. Where do you have his receiving yard line for week 2?
Yeah, so this one, there's no lineup yet. Obviously, we'll get one eventually, but this is one I wanted your opinion because he is very tricky to project right now. He ran around 67% of the time, so I want to hear your.
Was he hurt? Like, did we hear anything? Was he hurt?
I have no idea. Remember we had this come up with Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
He ran 100% of the routes.
They ran more 2 tight end sets, and Cooper Kupp was like a 50%. Anyways. Yeah. We need to find out more. He might have been hurt. But right now I'm projecting him for 56.5 receiving yards.
Ooh. Hold on. This is a tough one. I'm at about 48. So yeah, I'm down. I'm under that. Wow. I just don't. I mean, he ran 65 per. Wait, no, was it 67% of the routes? Kupp ran 100%. So it wasn't like a mistake. Like Kupp was definitely that true number 1 receiver. It was like Kupp was no longer a slot guy.
Yeah, and he and Stafford have a 2-hour lunch every day or something like that. They were saying
Cooper Kupp, he cheats. He's a cheater. He makes best friends with every quarterback. Remember, he was Goff's best friend. He's like, you know, nobody else is getting I'm getting my targets here. Like,
this is out of control. Like Cooper Kupp. I mean, where are you projecting? I have him for 6 catches for 72 yards, and that still feels low.
Oh yeah, that's actually, I mean, that's high. I have him 5.5. I have him 5.5 for 65.
What are you doing at 5.5? Like he's easily over 6 now. Anyways, it just seems like
it's the Colts. I mean, Tyler Lockett had 100 yards and 4 catches. Like, you know, it's the Colts can they'll run the ball. I mean, hey, but no, I don't know what to do with Woods. I have him at 4.3 catches.
Yeah.
I really kind of worry about him, and it's more so the fact that he didn't just finish number. You know, he didn't just run 67% of the routes. It's that he finished 3rd behind Van Jefferson, who ran 88% of the routes, which also pissed me off because this was supposed to be the Deshaun Jackson deep ball, and it was the Van Jefferson deep ball.
Yeah, come on, we get
everything I thought I knew about the Rams receivers, except that Cooper Kupp is the shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, we usually get Deshaun Jackson as a top 5 receiver after week 2, and then he gets a season-ending injury. We couldn't even get that, could we?
Yeah, and you know why this scares me a little, and why I think we should be somewhat conservative with Woods? Because you know how you always have those random year 2 breakout candidates? I mean, Van Jefferson, again, played more snaps than Robert Woods, who, as far as we know, was healthy and had a big play. So, this could just be a, Van Jefferson entering that, mix as, the Cooks, Kupp, and Woods triumvirate of a couple of years ago, or Watkins, even though he didn't really do that well. But, this could just be Van Jefferson entering as, a legit option here, like a legit top three.
That's why.
Yeah,
No, sorry. I was just saying that I think that Matthew Stafford, I was saying heading into the season, he makes that third wide receiver actually viable.
Yeah.
Back to the days where we had, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp. You could play them all as wide receiver twos. Now I was with you. I kind of thought it'd be Deshaun Jackson out of the gate. I'm not concerned about Tutu Atwell at all. And I just thought
you're not I know he didn't play much.
I'm not concerned,
but I mean, long term, I mean, they really targeted him in preseason. I feel like long term, they're trying to get him in there somehow. It's probably going to be at Deshaun's expense, but
yeah, he could be the occasional one deep ball a game Marvin Hall role. But I just thought Van Jefferson would be the guy that would step up. And it already happened. So what does that tell you? Buy low on Jefferson while you can. Yeah. Just because I think this offense, we want to invest in it. I mean, Matthew Stafford looked great. They utilize play action perfectly. This offense is one I want to invest in. And yeah, if Robert Woods is now the wide receiver 3, Van Jefferson would be the wide receiver 2. So I'm all over Van Jefferson here. And we haven't even talked about my cheat code yet, but I'm obsessed with who I'm about to talk about.
Yeah, get into it, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I have him ranked.
Oh my God. So Tyler Higbee.
93.
Holy shit. All right. He has a massive season coming, and thank God he only went 5 catches for 68 yards and no touchdowns week 1, because we still have a chance to kind of buy in on him.
Oh my goodness.
But oh my God, he played every single snap. We're not worried about Gerald Everett, or Jacob Harris is irrelevant right now. 94% routes run. He had the 4th highest expected yards after catch according to Next Gen Stats. Crazy cool thing they do with that stat. And he had a 9.8 yards after catch last week. If you saw how they schemed him up, he's wide open. He gets massive yards after the catch opportunity. He's just going to be a critical piece of this offense. So, the 2019 version seems very likely to happen here. We all remember how he ended 2019. That's kind of what I'm expecting going forward, right, with him.
Yeah. Do you know the Colts scheme? What they're do they play more 2 high show or 3 high show? Off the top of my head,
3 high.
Yeah, I think they're a little more 3 high.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing. Last week it was that Fangio type. He's not there anymore, but that kind of cover 2, I think. Which tight ends tend to rip. So it might not be quite as big, but I love it. I have him ranked top 5 just off again, it's all about the routes. You run 93% of the routes, 94%, and you're gonna be in that top tier tight end. So I'm interested to see how he how it kind of plays out if the scheme's a little different. But yeah, I think you want to get in on Higbee now. I think you want to get in on all these guys, like you said. Robert Woods, I would still buy low on, just because he might not have another game that bad. But Van Jefferson could easily still be the number 3 receiver and still be viable, because they don't really like to throw to running backs a ton. This is not a team that there's certain teams that, at one point throwing to running backs was in vogue, but teams have realized that if you have a good tight end, or you can get the ball down the field, there's no point in throwing to the running back and getting 5, 6, 7 yards, So
yeah. Real quick, you said you have him tight end 5, which I do as well. Yeah. So that means we're bumping down Hawkinson. 1 or 2 of these elite top 6 tight. Who is?
I think it's Hawkinson that's 6 for me, and Andrews, because Andrews ran over 90% of the routes. So it's
TJ Hawkinson tore it up this week, and I have Tyler Higbee ranked above him. Kyle Pitts is the one that's all the way down to 7, and I think he's his underlying stats are really good too. So we just have 7 elite tight ends right now, and Higbee's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, anybody anyone who's running 90% of the routes, Logan Thomas to me is in that category. All these guys, it's but I might end up going Hawkinson back over Higbee. I don't know, just because I have to look more into that scheme thing. That's the only thing, cover 2 scheme. We saw how it can affect an offense with the Bears, where they were able to run a lot. So maybe it's one of those situations where Higbee's going to play, obviously, but maybe it was one of those situations where the efficiency was due more to the scheme. So that's something I'm going to have to go back. Obviously, check our rankings, actionnetwork.com. We like to record this podcast early in the week to get this out for you guys. But our projections and rankings are by no means finalized.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. I mean, Johnny Munt was the only other tight end who got a snap on offense. Harris and Hopkins active, but did not he snaps. So yeah, Higbee is one half of my cheat code because the routes are just too much not to give him a mention. But I mean, Darrell Henderson, like he's right there for me too. 50. Let me see. Darrell Henderson, 17 of the 18 running back touches. Sony Michel didn't get carried till there was about 5 minutes left in the game. I think it was. He got like one carry.
Yep. Garbage time too. Garbage time. Like, here, we don't want to get Henderson injured. Why don't you go out there, Sony Michel?
Yeah, and Henderson came right back out there though. It was nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
It was nuts, man.
Yeah.
And let's remember that the Rams, the Bears actually did do a good job against the run. So the Rams didn't get much going with the run early in the game, but when they wanted to kind of salt the clock away and they kind of focused on the run, they were breaking off huge gains. So I think this Colts team profiles, I mean, aside from, the scheme is going to be a little different, but I think the game script could kind of profile the same way because Carson Wentz is no longer good. Let's first realize this. At least if he's going to be good this year, it might not be early in the year. He's still kind of getting acclimated. The foot didn't look that healthy. He just didn't look that mobile. I mean, he's never been super mobile, but didn't look good in week one. So no. I think Henderson's another guy who, if he's going to get used to, and remember, the Rams are one of those teams that are kind of famous for, they don't play that many guys on offense. Like generally they go with their starters. And if they have they had the committee at one point with Everett and Higbee because they were both good players, but generally they're going to play their guys. And we saw that with Cam Akers down the stretch last year, so we've seen that with Gurley when he was healthy. So yeah, love Henderson as well. 17 of the 18 backfield touches. Let's go on to the Niners game. They're facing the Eagles. The Niners 3.5-point favorites, the total up to an even 50. Elijah Mitchell, man, this Niners backfield. Trey Sermon probably the surprise scratch of week one, him and Zach Moss. So Elijah Mitchell goes off because, of course, Raheem Mostert gets injured on his second carry. So 2 carries deep into the week one.
Brutal. Yeah.
And now so the big news is Elijah Mitchell went off, over 100 yards, got 19 touches. Where do you have his rushing yardage projected for this week in terms of the median?
Oh man, this is really tough. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this all week. But my initial projection for Elijah Mitchell is 62.5 yards. So where the hell are you on this?
63. Well, no, actually, no, that's my mean projection. My median would be around 59. So 59.60.
I mean, he has a wide range of outcomes this week, right? I mean,
yeah. I don't know where do you have him carry wise? I'm about 15 carries.
That sounds all right. I think I have him 14.5, but it's not a very confident projection because I mean, yes, Trey Sermon was inactive week one, but Raheem Mostert is out for the season. So I think, Trey Sermon's gonna be active this week. Who knows how much of this coach speak we can look into? You actually said it best, like the week one inactive was all the coach speak we needed to know where this running back committee is, but they still spent a 3rd round pick on Sermon. So I'm not a fan of just completely giving up on Trey Sermon already. I still think it's a buy low situation. However, I do think Elijah Mitchell is the play this week. I think he's pretty much a low end RB2. We saw him go off last week. So that's why I'm still projecting him pretty high, but he does have a low floor, right? I mean, this is why you don't like investing in the 49ers running backs, because every week it's kind of like this discussion of we don't really know where the hell to rank them. So that's why it's a very unconfident 62.5 yard projection by me right now.
Yeah. And I think that's going to have more to do with how good is the Eagles team? Because I was all over the Eagles in week one. I thought people were really underrating them against the Falcons. I thought the Eagles were just flat out the better team. And so when you look at the breakout of how the usage went for Mitchell and JaMychal Hasty, the other active running back, Mitchell got 86% of the carries. Hasty got 5%, but they both ran around on 36% of the dropbacks, which tells me that if they're not blowing out the Lions like crazy, maybe Hasty gets in the game more. Now, like you're alluding to, the wild card is Sermon because he's inactive in week one. Now, does he kind of factor into where if he's active, he gets more carries than Hasty would have? Maybe, but at the same time, Kyle Shanahan also said, hey, these both Mitchell and Hasty beat out Sermon flat out in the preseason.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say. I think your upside for Sermon is you're looking at maybe he gets like a third of the carries instead of, being that number 3 running back, because Hasty getting only 5% makes it, maybe he's there more for, what he can do in the pass game. They don't love him as a runner. That maybe, like, we don't know. But I think that's kind of what you're looking at. But I have Mitchell kind of projected for 60% of the carries. I think how it breaks out between the other two guys, that's up for debate. That's where we're kind of wait and see. But I think Mitchell, unless they get down to Philly's, jumps on him at home. I think, Mitchell should get his, 13 to 16 carries at least, with upside for more. But if they get into a pass script, that's when you're a little worried for Mitchell. But yeah, he's my cheat code. I mean, that's still the guy, I think, to you jump on him now while he's cheap, and because he played well. That's how Mostert got the job. Played well. So I don't think there's anything not to like about Mitchell right now. Let's go to Broncos Jags. Broncos 6-point favorites, the total 45. And you have an interesting prop for this one. Give it to me.
Yeah. So who will score more PPR points this week? KJ Hamler or Tim Patrick?
Tim Patrick. I don't even need to look at my numbers to say Tim Patrick. I mean, it's still kind of one of those, you don't know exactly how it's going to shake out. But I said this on the pod. I think Tim Patrick's just a good receiver. I think Hamler is too, but Patrick was getting more of those like snaps when Judy wasn't out, right? So yep. I think that's, and he had 300-yard games last year, had another multi-touchdown game. So, it's just one of those situations where I think he's going to be a full-time, like, every down player. Hamler, I think, still ends up being that slot receiver. And then I think, Courtland Sutton, his usage will be ramped up a little bit. He had, I think, only ran 80% of the route. So, yeah, it's Tim Patrick for me. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think Patrick is certainly the higher floor play. But I think, for GPPs, a guy like KJ Hamler, he has a ton of upside. But I think that, yeah, Tim Patrick, you already mentioned it. Tim Patrick was already playing quite a bit before Jerry Jeudy even went down. And it looked like Teddy Bridgewater really trusted Tim Patrick. He scored the touchdown. So I think that the Jeudy injury just opens up Tim Patrick for, an 85% plus routes run roll this week. So I think he's a super safe play. But KJ Hamler certainly for GPPs offers that upside. Yeah,
I like Hamler. Is long-term prospects. I think he's a pretty good receiver. At least, has the talent to be. Did not like him dropping that long touchdown. He might just be one of those frustrating guys that, like, he always looks better on paper than he will in the actual games. So whereas Patrick is just proving it. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Patrick until Hamler, kind of shows us anything different. For DFS, who is your cheat code?
I'm going with Noah Fant. I think a lot of people are going to be targeting, Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, which I think is a great play, and KJ Hamler with Jerry Jeudy going down. But, Noah Fant could see a pretty big boost as well. Denver may opt to run more 2 tight end sets. Noah Fant and Albert O look really good in week 1. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just bumped up their usage. And Fant ran 60% routes run last week. And they kind of hinted that they're going to limit him due to his knee injury. So I'm projecting him up closer to 75% this week. And the Jaguars made Pharaoh Brown look like Darren Waller last week. So give me Noah Fant against the Jags.
Yeah, I do like that call, because the Jags just, I mean, this team just didn't look good. Like, this team is just so...
No, they did not.
Like, very unprepared, and just like got schooled by a veteran coaching staff. Even though HOU-CLE, he's new coach, but I think one of the oldest head coaches in the league, oldest first-time head coach. So yeah, they have Lovely Smith on that staff. So yeah, I think it's another good staff in Denver. You have Shermer on offense. Teddy Bridgewater looked good. So yeah, I think these Bronco receivers, I like all of them. I mean, I even like Teddy. So for the cheat code, I want to go Courtland Sutton because Brandon Cooks went off for 5 for 132 last week against Jacksonville as well. So it wasn't just Fowler Brown. But I'm gonna go Tim Patrick here because I think Sutton's gonna be the more obvious play. But again, I'm not convinced that Tim Patrick is that far below Sutton right now. Like Tim Patrick's just a really good receiver, and Sutton played 80% of the routes, and that was with the Judy injury. So you just wonder where Sutton is in his recovery. But Patrick looked good out there. So I'm gonna go with the guy that looked the best because I think you can make a case for Fant, Sutton, Hamler, and Patrick. But Patrick's been that consistent guy. He's looked the best for pretty much the last year and change because since Sutton went down the first time in terms of the Broncos receivers. Because remember, Judy had a tough year last year.
Yeah. You know what all this means though, right? It's definitely going to be in Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams game.
Yeah, I mean, you would think it would. I mean, that's always going to be Denver's MO. And I mean, how fast did Melvin Gordon look on that? Like he ran away from the Giants defense late in that Giants game. So
would he be a cheat code here? Like he's an interesting pivot because everybody's gonna be loading up on the receivers given the opportunity with Judy being out. But like, yeah, don't sleep on Melvin Gordon, especially against the Jaguars. How could they
everyone against the Jaguars because they stink?
There you go.
That's it. Broncos D, bam, that's the cheat code.
Broncos D and Melvin Gordon stack.
Yeah.
Real quick before we move on, where the hell are you ranking James Robinson?
Oh. Yeah, you know what? I don't remember. We're going to go check that right now. That's probably not good that I don't remember.
He's my RB24, and I don't feel good about it.
He's my RB36.
Okay, thank you. I felt like RB24 is a bit too high, especially against Denver. I'm guessing he'll end up closer to RB30. So it's nice.
I might meet you in the middle there. Again, okay. It's initial projections. So I have Hyde kind of with that same carry share that he had last week, which was almost like 2-1.
Yeah, for those of you that have James Robinson, not good. He's probably a sit-start decision this week, and I'm leaning towards sit.
I am so mad, like myself, for like. And the thing is, I love James Robinson, but I like all summer I was just like, yo, Urban Meyer's gonna be a disaster. Urban Meyer's gonna be a disaster, and like it's already looking like he's gonna be a disaster. But it's like affecting fantasy players, which sucks.
Not good. Yeah. I think the passing game might still be salvageable. They threw 53 times. But my James Robinson under what was that 1,000 rushing yards on Price Picks is looking pretty good right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping, we can't project him for like the same amount of carries he had last season, but I'm just hoping that eventually Urban Meyer, like just like he came to his senses, like you pointed out, like he eventually tried to right his wrongs. He fired the coach, the coach that was like, getting everyone upset that he hired him. He cut Tebow. So I'm hoping that like he comes out in week 2 and it's just like Robinson, 25 carries. So love him in GPPs. Definitely love him in GPPs. Like I think he's a buy low actually, because he's still you're talking about Carlos Hyde. Like it's still James Robinson's a better running back than Carlos Hyde. You're probably like, you're not going to get another 5 carry game from James Robinson. And even if you do it, it's probably not going to be in like a situation where it's like week 1. That's the only sample we have. Like Robinson, I could see him going like 15 to 18 carries this week, then maybe 7 the next week. But like right now, I think might be still the lowest you can get him. So
yeah, but
I would still buy.
Now I'm not defending Carlos Hyde in any way here, but who was James Robinson's backup last season? Wrong answers only.
Chris Thompson?
Briefly for like 5 games before he got hurt.
Until he
like
broke
Nathan
his
Cottrell
body.
And Divine Ozigbo
and Dare Ogunbowale.
They had nobody. So Carlos Hyde is a significant upgrade, which is saying something.
I completely agree. And Carlos Hyde always does this. Remember that time we thought Duke Johnson might actually get the full workload or like a RB1 workload?
Yeah.
And it was about Carlos Hyde 15 to 20 carries every game.
Exactly. He's like the new Frank Gore.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. That's actually, and he might be like, they were on, remember they came up, like Hyde was the backup to Gore. That's really
he's Frank Gore reincarnated.
Yeah. The good thing is Robinson still played like 2/3 of the snaps, so it was just the carries were thwarted because the Jags came out with just this super pass heavy game script, which did their rookie quarterback no favors. He threw 3 picks. They got down big early. So I have a feeling that Urban Meyer is going to kind of go with a 180 and James Robinson's going to be fine. So I'm actually going to, I might come meet you closer to that RB24.
Okay.
The more that I talk this through, because
Right.
I've had kind of a good read on Meyer. So I think he's going to try to go full into course correction in this one.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go to Patriots Jets and Matt Jones. 257.5 passing yards is the line on Prize Picks. The line is 43.5 with the Patriots favored by 5.5. But Matt Jones, 257.5 pass yards. Is that a little high for you, or is that in line with what you're projecting?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit too high. I'm projecting this closer to 238. And that's nothing to do with like Mac Jones not looking good last week. I thought he looked really good last week. It was a tough matchup. Again, that's why I took the Dolphins plus 3.5. But I thought he looked good. And this week, they can lean on the run game. They can lean on their defense. They're playing the Jets. So I don't think they're going to be airing it out. That's the only reason why my projection for him is a bit low. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has a very efficient game. So, I probably would stay away from this, but leaning on the under here.
Yeah, I'm pretty far under this one. I have in that 220 range. It's more so, like you said, the Jets just don't really present, I think, a great opportunity to need to throw. So you have to be efficient, and he could absolutely be efficient, but it's just not something that you can bank on. But I do like Matt Jones as a stash this week. Like, usually I'm stashing all running backs, but like, I just think Mac Jones, he does have this like 4 touchdown potential against the Jets. And if he has a great game against the Jets, like he had 39 attempts in week 1, like everyone's going to want him, because he might just be like one of those, really efficient pocket passers that you can stream more weeks than not, or start more weeks than not. So like, I'm still kind of, I like him. I like what I saw out of him. But where are you going with your cheat code?
My cheat code is the Pats defense and Damian Harris stack.
Wait. Gotta ask about. So are you not concerned at all about the fumble with Harris? Because I've seen a lot of talk about, are they going to lower his workload? Stevenson also fumbled. Are they going to activate Taylor? Like, are you concerned at all about Harris's? I'm guessing not, obviously.
Not yet, and it's Bill Belichick, so check in with me later in the week. But like you said, Stevenson lost the fumble as well, and Stevenson was coming back from a finger injury, so I thought that it was kind of weird that they were playing him so much, but that might be his excuse there. But I think Harris looked good enough. If he fumbles it again this week, then I'd be concerned about like an in-game benching. Either way, I think it's going to be a run-heavy game plan. We saw last week the similar approach where Harris rushed 23 times for 100 yards. No touchdowns, though. That's where I think he, improves this week. I think he scores a touchdown. Again, he doesn't have massive upside, but when it comes to, GPPs, doing a nice little stack with the defense and running back like Harris makes a ton of sense. I think he does have 2 touchdown potential again this week. So I'm sticking with Harris despite the fumble.
Yeah, I love the Pats D. I mean,
yeah,
I think they're in a great spot. I mean, Zach Wilson struggled against the Panthers D. Like he had decent volume numbers at the end, put some things together. But I mean, you look at the Jets just as a team, their efficiency on offense was miserable, and against the pass and a run. So I agree. There's going to be a run heavy game script. I don't know what's going to happen this week. I mean, I think it's going to be Harris just right back in, but I'm going to keep watching the beat reports. Just talk.
I'm with you there. Keep me posted as well. I'm less concerned about that as I am with Trent Brown's day-to-day right now. So if he can play, we haven't heard anything negative about Harris, then I'm firing him up. Again, this is more of a GPP kind of stack, so I'm not playing him in cash anyways. But if Trent Brown is active, I think that'll boost his projection a little bit in my eyes.
For my cheat code, I actually think that this is a team you want to attack in tournaments, because there is some uncertainty about the run game, but they could have they could run it 40 times, but they could also be super efficient through the air. The Jets allowed Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore to get 137 yards and a touchdown on 11 targets. So that's well over 10 yards per target. Now, so I like Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar. It's tough to really differentiate between them, but they both ran a route on 95% of the dropbacks last week. And the Patriots didn't go as much to tight end, as we thought in the pass game. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith were both around 50% in terms of the routes, so per dropback. So I kind of sneakily still think, these Patriots receivers could have some success against these Jets corners. Now, Terrace Marshall only 26 yards on 6 targets. So yeah, so for my cheat code, I'm going to go Aguilar, because I think when you looked at the Jets last week, they gave up over 10 yards of target to Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. Of course, Anderson had the long touchdown. Moore had 80 yards on 6 catches, but they played well in the slot. So I think Aguilar is the one guy that's not going to play in the slot quite as much. But him and Myers both, Jacoby Myers both ran 95% of the route. So this could be a Myers game too. But I think it's actually Aguilar. Aguilar is in the best spot as kind of a sneaky play here. So I like Myers too, but just how well they played against Marshall worries me a bit. But you're talking about 95% routes run against one of the worst secondaries in the league. So love Aguilar in tournaments, like Myers, and Bourne was kind of playing half as much. So I think it's definitely between those two guys, but I do have some interest in these Pats receivers this week.
Yeah. What is up with these tight ends? Because, they didn't run as many 2 tight end sets as I thought. Like you said, Jonnu Smith had 50% routes run and Hunter Henry was like 60%. So they overpaid like to get half of Jonnu Smith and half of Hunter Henry. Like, what's going on here?
I mean, you know how the Patriots are always zigging when everyone's zagging. I don't know. I mean, it just seemed more like they kind of split it between having a third wide receiver on the field and having a second tight end on the field. And they weren't like they weren't like blowing the Dolphins out at any point. So they had 39 pass attempts. So usually when you have 40, you're approaching 40 attempts, the tight ends aren't necessarily going to be in there. Like tight ends are more like those first, second down, non-hurry up situations. So maybe that was it. I could see them going up a little, but that could just as well impact Bourne. Like you could still have Myers and Aguilar be those 2 receivers, because the way they really didn't come out of the game. And we kind of saw that with Demiri Bird last year, where Demiri Bird was like sneakily on the field like 95% of the time for New England. So I think these guys are, again, in tournaments, I think you consider them. In cash, you can't do it.
No way.
And in season long, I think you kind of wait and see, unless you're like in a super deep league and need a desperation guy. But in tournaments, I think it's perfect, because I think Mac Jones could have a efficient day, and you want some exposure to those wide receivers in that situation. Let's go to Vikings Cardinals. Cardinals, after that blowout of Tennessee, favored by 4.5 points at home against the Vikings. The total is 51. What do you got for Kyler Murray rushing yards?
Yeah, so this is one I wanted to pose to you, because he rushed for 20 yards last week. And I know you're really good with quarterback running projections. You talk about scrambling rate, things like that. So I just curious if you saw anything on your end, but right now I'm projecting him for 40.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, I'm right around 35. So knocked him down a little bit, compared to, I think I would have had him closer to 40, a little over 40 season baseline coming in, but he hasn't been scrambling quite as much since the second half of last season. I think there was an injury, but the fact that it's, he hasn't had to run that much, he didn't run this much early this year either. You're kind of going on, like, it's trending down in terms of his rushing production just a little bit, but I still have him as my QB2. I think this is still a great week for him, at home against a team with a total of 51, so over 50. So I like Kyler, but he's got the receivers now. I think the receiving core is a little better. I mean, I still don't agree with giving AJ Green 90% of the routes and Christian Kirk 60, but and more. What did he get? Like 40, 35, 40?
Yeah, not enough.
I think that has to change and kind of even out at the best. Like AJ Green probably should be the number 4 guy at this point in his career. Nothing against him, but he should probably be the number 4 guy.
Nothing against him, but everything against him at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, because I like AJ Green, like, as a player. It's just like when these guys get old, they get old so fast. Like, so it's like, you know, it's like Jordy Nelson. Like I used to love Jordy Nelson, and then it was just one year he couldn't walk anymore, and I was like, you know what I mean? Like you just gotta lower this guy's projection. Like he can't run. So that's where I'm at with AJ. I think you're gonna see more in Kirk trend up, especially after, you know, Kirk had a big game, and he's played on the outside before, and then Moore, he's your DFS cheat code, right?
Absolutely. Should I get into it?
Yeah, let's go right into it.
All right. Well, consider this a Rondale Moore jersey. This whole outfit is my love for Rondale Moore right now. You know, he caught 4 passes for 68 yards, no touchdowns. So I think he'll still be under the radar a bit. But like you mentioned, he only ran a route 40% of the time. So his playing time still has a long way to go. And, you know, I think it's going to come at AJ Green's expense, potentially Christian Kirk. Either way, they're going to have to give him more playing time. And he had a 36% target share. And when I say target share, it's when he's on the field. I don't like
per route.
Yeah, per route run. I don't like target share.
For everyone out there when listening, like I know a lot of people still, you know, talk about target share. Maybe that's a little easier for people to understand, but like, especially for us, is like when we're projecting, we have to do it based on routes. That's why we talk about routes, because it's like, you know, a guy could have a 20% target share and run all of the routes, or he could have run like half of the routes. That makes a huge difference in projecting him going forward. So I just wanted to point that out in case people are like, why the hell do y'all keep talking about routes? Like, what the fuck are all these routes? Who cares?
It's so key to making accurate projections. And when people talk about target share more broadly, it's just not as relevant. So
yeah,
when Rondale Moore was on the field, that's all we care about. He had a target 36% of the time, which is absolutely insane. I mean, it makes sense because he's the type of player you want to scheme targets to. He's going to be one of the best receivers after the catch and sometime, in my opinion. And he, you know, his expected yards after the catch by Next Gen Stats, another stat, like just go check it out. They do some amazing work over there. Was 10.9, which is the 3rd highest. And he had which means that they're scheming up plays to get huge yards after the catch. And he's already really good after the catch. So that's why he had a 16.1 yards after the catch rate last week. So I think he's going to lead the league in yards after the catch. And, you know, he's the kind of guy where they're going to scheme up targets. So we could start seeing 6 to 8 catches a game, potentially, you know, 100-yard games. I think his only limitation might be scoring touchdowns, but he's so good with the ball in his hands. I mean, he can score from anywhere. So he's a guy I'm trying to invest in before he's going to break out significantly. So he's my cheat code here. I think it's imminent for them to not have AJ Green on the field 90% of the time and give some of those, please, to Rondale Moore.
Hopefully we get a prop for him. I could see that being your convince me prop next week. Like
Rondale
Moore over 17.5 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I was going to do Rondale Moore over, but they wanted me to do an afternoon game for the contest. So I pivoted to Waddle. Can't complain, but I was going to have Rondale Moore over. I think it was like 39.5 or something silly like that. Such an easy bet.
All right. Yeah, I'm right with you for Moore. I mean, like when you just look at the straight up routes, you know, Green ran over 90% of the routes. He's super cheap, but again, I just think he's going to trend downwards. You know, in week 1, I think, you know, they were like, all right, we're going to put him out there. You know, the GM Kime, you know, said he's like, oh, he got a lot of targets that weren't great last year. So, you know, I think Kingsbury is just going to realize that, hey, like my 3 best receivers are Hopkins, Kirk, and Moore. And I don't think there's much question about that to anyone that's watching these games. So I think Green's going to trend down. So yeah, I got to go with Moore too. He's way too cheap, and you got to buy low now because that target share is huge. And
just real quick, picking up on our debate last week on the Vikings wide receiver 3, it is absolutely KJ Osborne. Any thoughts there? Is he a ad?
I mean, I know he did, what did he get? 7, 8 catches.
Yeah, 7 catches for like
76.
Yeah. But yeah, he had a huge usage rate, and he was on the field quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's up to my wide receiver 62. So
deeper PPR formats only.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of said it. Somebody's gonna have to step up in his offense. I just don't know, and I could be wrong because you know it certainly played out that way in week 1, but I just don't know if the Vikings are gonna have to throw as much over the course of the year. I do expect the defense to eventually be better. And so it's tough because I think, you know, sometimes I think that 7 for 76 goes to like Conklin, for example, instead of him. But anytime a guy catches 7 balls, yeah, he should be on the radar. So I just don't tend to hold a lot of wide receivers on my bench. I'm more of a, like, let me stash running backs. And then if I'll even start playing tactically where, like, if there's like a really good defensive streamer a week ahead of time, I might, grab that. Or like, I use my bench for things like that. I think wide receivers are the easiest to kind of flip in and out. But if you're in a deeper league, the guy caught 7 balls, even in DFS, it's like, this is a total over 51, over 50. And, the guy caught 7 balls. People are going to own a lot of Jefferson, a lot of Thielen after the big game. So, I think it's a very interesting play. Bucks, Falcons, Kyle Pitts, 8 targets, not many yards last week. What do you have his receiving yard line prop at?
I have it at 46.5.
Ooh, let's see. What do I have for Pitts? Pitts is my tight end 7 in PPR. Yes, it's interesting. And you said you have it at what? 47.5?
46.5.
Did you just knock it down? Or did you say
you
that
knocked
the first
it
time?
up. You gave yourself an extra yard.
Yeah, I have the mean at 48, the median at about 44. So I'll still go under. Again, he's down to, he's behind a couple of tight ends that he wasn't behind last week in my projections. But let's just go right into first of all, what were your thoughts on Pitts? Because he did get the 8 targets. But, I mean, how bad did the Falcons offense look?
That's my only concern is, his underlying usage screams buy low, but you also have to be confident that this offense is going to work. I think eventually, I feel like this happens quite often with the Falcons. Their offensive line looks horrible, and eventually they figure it out. Plus, they have your boy Arthur Smith. So
that's why I'm worried, because it's like,
well,
should they have just like blown it up? Because the Titans look like shit without Arthur Smith. The Falcons look like shit with Arthur Smith. They're trading all types of players. Julio Jones going there, and Javian Hawkins going there, and it's like Tajay Sharp. It's like they have all each other's old players, Lee Smith, but it's like nothing's working for either of them on offense.
They should have blown it up, absolutely. And it's sad to see because they have Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, 2 great up and coming players. I think they'll figure it out for the rest of the season, but as an organization, I think they made the wrong move. That they are not a Super Bowl team by any stretch of the imagination. So they should have been playing for 2023, 2024.
Yeah, I do think that people are sleeping on the Eagles. So I think the Eagles are a little better than we thought. So I got, the Falcons, obviously lots of problems there. Don't know if this offense that worked for Tannehill and Derrick Henry and AJ Brown is going to work here necessarily. It was concerning to see Ridley not go off in this game. Just given that they were behind for most of it. Not, I know Darius Slay is a good corner, but Kyle Pitts, they're wide receiver 3. I mean, really, they're wide receiver 2. It was Ridley 97%, Gage 79%, Pitts 79% of the routes per dropback. Olamide Zaccheaus, who's technically the wide receiver 3, just 21%.
And Gage did nothing. He literally did nothing. If anything, Pitts makes him irrelevant. I think, Pitts is the wide receiver 2, and Hayden Hurst is a starting tight end. He played 67% of the routes run. So I was saying he's a sneaky play where he's the tight end for this team and Pitts is the receiver. And if Pitts were to go down, I think Hurts could be a low end tight end 1. Either way, this is, 2 tight end offense. Russell Gage is irrelevant, and Calvin Ridley, that was very worrisome, but I'm still banking on Calvin Ridley's talent to prevail here.
Yeah, I worry about Russell Gage, not because I think he's great, but just because he always seems to factor in when you least expect it and get 8 catches. So I don't think we heard the last of Russell Gage, to be
probably
honest.
not.
But it's it's week 2, and I have Russell Gage 1 spot ahead of KJ Osborne. So so here we go. For your DFS cheat code, who do you like?
I'm going Mike Evans. He was the odd man out in week 1, 3 catches for 24 yards, I think it was. And surprisingly, no touchdowns. Usually we could bank on at least 1 touchdown for Mike Evans, sometimes 2. And I feel like last season, whenever Mike Evans had a bad game, Bruce Arians and Tom Brady apologized publicly. They promised a squeaky wheel game. I haven't seen anything like that yet, but I just assume it's coming. So this is a week to buy in on Mike Evans when everyone's going to be flocking to take Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, even Rob Gronkowski. They all just went off on opening night. So I think this is the time to kind of buy low on Mike Evans. And I would not be surprised to see him score his patented, 2 catches for 40 yards and 3 touchdowns, or 3 touchdowns on 2 catches. Yeah, that's a Mike Evans line right
it's
there.
actually 3 catches, 3 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Exactly. That's the Mike Evans line I was looking for.
I like Evans just because the pricing, kind of dictates that. But for my cheat code, I'm just gonna straight up admit that the ball can go anywhere. Because this Falcons D I think is really bad. So I'm going with Tom Brady. You don't usually play a pocket passer who's near the top of the pricing tiers, but I just love the Bucs this week. The Falcons defense giving up, 27 of 35 to Jalen Hurts, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and then 7 for 62 on the ground. I mean, they're not stopping anyone. And that was against the Eagles, who everyone was like, can Jalen Hurts complete 50% of his passes? Like, can he pass the ball? Well, now you got Tom Brady come. You're going to Tom Brady's house, actually. So it's, you know what I mean? Like, this is just a smash spot for the Bucs offense. I mean, I think the bigger question is, does Ronald Jones get back in the rotation? Any thoughts on that? Like, is he?
I'm out on Ronald Jones. That was actually going to lead into my other question is, let's say they blow out the Falcons. Are we worried about them being run heavy with a guy like Ronald Jones, or do you think they're going to still air it out? Because I'm still convinced that they could emulate that 2013 Broncos team where I said, I was getting deja vu with Tom Brady last season when Peyton Manning left the Colts after playing there for 20 years as well. He had a good first season, then second season was record breaking, and then Thursday Night Football this week, Brady had like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns at halftime. So I was getting some serious deja vu with my Peyton Manning deja vu. Like, I think this week, if they're up by 30, they're still airing it out.
Yeah, and I mean, to get up by 39, what do you think they're going to do? Run the ball for 5 touchdowns? Unlikely. No. I mean, possible, but unlikely. But yeah, DFS cheat code Tampa Bay Bucs. All of them. Like, just.
But I'm with you. Just play Tom Brady.
Gronk. We haven't even talked about Gronk. Gronk is back. Gronk is like mine's tight end. I think I have Gronk ahead of Kyle Pitts this week. Like, Gronk. Like,
oh my God, no, you don't.
Yeah, I think I do. Let's see. Where's Gronk? Gronk is my. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, Gronk is he's ahead of him in standard. So
yeah, I'm really close too. I can see how you can get there.
He ran 74% routes. He's Gronk back. He's like, if we're talking about Antonio Brown's routes are going to go up because now it's like, he's back in the swing of things. He had a whole offseason. Well, Gronk was coming off retirement. Now he's playing more. Like, we thought he was going to play less. I thought he was going to play less, but it doesn't look like they're doing that at all. It looks like he's just going back to like normal Gronk.
Either way, you win this round. Tom Brady's the cheat code. Figure out 2 guys to stack with him and just go with
maybe
it.
3. Maybe even 3. It could be one of those games. Or the running back. Go for net Brady and like 2 receivers. Just get your Bucs in there.
Have Brady head that 2 to 3 man stack for sure.
All right, let's go quick here. Titans Seahawks 5.5 point favorites. The total well over 50 here as well. Derrick Henry, what do you have his rushing yardage line here after he struggled in week 1? Yeah,
this is tricky. I want to see where you have Matt, but I have it 90.5, which seems low for Derrick Henry, but I don't know. It might be too high after that first that week 1 performance we saw.
Yeah, the Seahawks have a tough defense, so but I still have them around 95. So it's hard for me to overreact to like one game. But maybe I do lower him because we do have a new offensive coordinator. I have to go back and look at Logan's I think he had one other year as an OC and see exactly what he did. But right now I still have Henry, getting his like 21 carries. So yeah, I didn't knock him down as much. It was a little more concerning that him and Jeremy McNichols essentially ran the same amount of routes. So that's never good. But
you're usually not banking on Derrick Henry to do anything in the past.
Yeah, but you want him to get like the 45%, 50% of routes just so like he can get maybe 2 catches. You don't want to project him for like 1. That's that knocks him down in PPR.
And he had 17 carries in a blowout, so I think that's certainly good news.
I'm at 21.5, so I'm giving him I do respect Seattle's defense, but it's still Seattle's defense. I guess it's like I'm not gonna
Derrick Henry.
Right. I'll give him a couple of weeks of leeway here.
Absolutely.
For cheat code, I like Chris Carson. You like Chris Carson. Talk about him real quick.
It just is, he's a sneaky play here because obviously AJ Brown, Julio Jones, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. We want to invest in Derrick Henry as a bounce back candidate. So I think Chris Carson's sneaky here. He was a true workhorse back week 1. Very encouraged to see that. And Rashad Penny's already banged up. So, we're going to see more of that going forward. I think he's going to be overlooked in this matchup, and it would not surprise me if he scores a couple of touchdowns here. So love Chris Carson.
Yep. Love him as well. That's the guy I would look to. But I think, this whole offense, this is another offense, like love the Seahawks pass game as well. But Carson, he's easily like a 2-3 touchdown candidate. And Penny got hurt. So, could continue getting a big share of that workload. Let's go to Chargers Cowboys. This is another game with a huge total. It's 55.5 right now. Chargers 3-point favorites at home.
Yeah.
But Austin Eckler, concerning, man. You pointed it out that he didn't get targeted on his 25 routes. So where do you have his receiving yards for week 2?
Yeah, that was one of the craziest stats from week 1, in my opinion. So he's difficult to project.
He got a goal line touchdown.
Yeah, 2 goal line attempts and 0 catches. It's bizarre world with Austin Eckler. So I'm just curious how you're approaching it, but I'm projecting him for 36.5 receiving yards.
Ooh, I'm under that. I have him around 26. So I've already knocked down his, because he ran a route only 51% of dropbacks. Now I know he was banged up, so maybe I raised that a bit, but I don't think I'm going to end up at 36 either way. Like I think I probably end up, if I bump him up a little from last week, at like 30, 31 max.
Yeah.
So,
I'm projecting him at 55. I think it's going to climb a bit.
Oh, so you still have his targets per route a little.
His targets per route. I'm not trying to ding too much after week 1. I'm a bit worried that, Mike Williams looks like he's going to be a target monster this year. I was kind of thinking that'd be the case.
Yeah, you were on Mike Williams all off season.
What?
You were on him all off season.
No, I know. And it came true so far. So I think that maybe that's taking away a little bit from Eckler, but there's no way to explain 0 targets. So I'm just fading that. It could have been due to the injury. I'm just keeping him similar to what I expected going into the season. That's why I'm still projecting him right around 4 catches this week. And how about my boy Larry Roundtree being the legit backup in this offense?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he was. That's probably for the best. But that's why I'm a little worried about Eckler's receiving, just because it's a new coaching staff, and this new coaching staff is not a running backs coach. Like Anthony Lynn was a running backs coach. So it could just, because there's certain coaches that they don't like to throw to their backs as much. So this is definitely something to monitor. I knocked him down to 3.5 catches.
Got it.
So Mike Williams, though, he's
you look good.
Woo. I have him very high. Whoops.
And of course, he was on my bench in all my leagues. They kind of said that, draft him, be on your bench, and then you're going to want to play him eventually. So I really didn't have Michael Thomas in any of my starting lineups, but he will
Mike
be
Williams,
this week.
Not Thomas.
Huh?
You said Michael
Thomas.
Thomas.
I said Mike Thomas.
You said Michael Thomas. You said the good Mike Thomas, but it was still the wrong Mike.
I don't even know how I'm breathing at this point. But yeah, I had Mike Williams on pretty much all my benches this week. None of my starting lineups, but that will change going forward.
Yeah, I have him as a high-end wide receiver 3 this week. I think there's a lot. This game could be just monstrous from a fantasy perspective.
Yes.
Because you have the total's 50 something. I'm pretty much in line with that.
It's going to be a glorious shootout at SoFi. I wish we could go.
We could. We just have to kind of do work in a very compromised position.
Over under 75% of the fans wearing Cowboy jersey. Are you taking the over under?
Oh, that's a good line. I'd probably go over after going to that preseason game.
Yep. I'm afraid you're right.
Cheat code. Who you like?
I'm going Zeke Elliott. And it was kind of interesting to see Twitter blowing up like how bad Zeke was the first game. Weren't we talking about that? Like they were facing the Bucks. They were 9-point underdogs, although it turned out to be a really close game. They were missing Zach Martin. This was not a week to rely on Zeke to go off. So this week they get Zach Martin back. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a shootout. I don't think a lot of people are going to be rostering Zeke, so I think he's in a bounce back spot. I'm buying low. Give me all the Zeke this week.
Yeah, I love Zeke. There's a lot of guys I could have. I mean, I could pick like 5-6 guys here. I love Zeke. I'm going with CeeDee Lamb because he's right in that same price range, and he had a 37% target share last week. Of course, Gallup is out. So, Cooper, he's a little higher priced. I think he's a great play. I think Dak is a great play. Zeke, there's just so many.
Cedric Wilson
right.
is a sneaky flyer in GPP, although he'll probably be rostered quite a bit. But I just think I'm with you. I think the passing game, everyone's going to be investing in it. I will too, but I think Zeke is a nice pivot, a good leverage play for this game.
Oh yeah, I love Zeke. But I love Lamb as well. I mean, I think Zeke is like he could go in a stack with Dak this week. Like that's how much This is the game to stack, especially with that Cowboys offense. I could see like Dak, Zeke, Cooper, Lamb, like that stack right there. You could get it in. It's you go with some low scoring, some low salary guys at other positions. You could definitely make it work. Let's go to Chiefs Ravens, the Sunday night game. Mark Andrews, he was on the field on over 90% of the dropbacks running a route. That's what I thought was surprising in week one. Where do you have his receiving yards prop?
That's why week 2 is so much fun because we actually have data to go off of. This is another surprising week 1 stat line because, like you said, he was on the field pretty much every passing play and he didn't produce. That's not normal for Mark Andrews. So I'm curious where you have him. I'm not docking him too much. I think he's going to bounce back. So I have him at 51.5 receiving yards.
Let's see. I have Mark Andrews. Yeah, I'm right there. Around 50. So I'll go slightly under. The only thing I worry about a little bit, the Chiefs have, especially under Spagnuolo, just played really good defense against Lamar Jackson. Last season, and this is a game a lot of people liked Baltimore at home against the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson, 15 of 28, 97 yards, 3.5 yards per attempt. Mark Andrews, 8 targets. So Lamar threw it 28 times. Mark Andrews had 8 targets, 3 catches, 22 yards. Like there's a lower floor than we think for this Ravens offense in this game. Because Spags just schemes up. They always know exactly how to play Lamar. Make him make the tough throws outside. Make him, make progressions in the pocket. Don't let him run. He only ran. What did he run? He ran 9 times for 80. 83 yards. So he had maybe only a carry under his normal average, and he was actually over his average, but he fumbled twice in that game, lost one of them. And didn't get over 200 total yards combined rushing and passing. So I might have to lower, and I have him as my tight end 4 right now, and I have him right around 50 yards. But I feel more confident about a guy like Hawkinson or who else, or Higbee even maybe.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. I have Andrews number 4 as well. I would not be surprised if he just goes nuclear this week. But I think Higbee and Hawkinson are safer plays. So they might leapfrog him and he might end up being my tight end 6. Yeah. But if you have him in fantasy, you're playing him anyway. And I think he's going to bounce back. But the tight end position is just stacked right now. So I just love throw Kyle Pitts and even Noah Fant in there. Hell, throw
you're sleeping on my guy, Logan Thomas, man.
I know. And Logan Thomas, there's 10. That's the cutoff. Logan Thomas, that's it. Robert Tonyan is the drop off.
Oh man, he didn't have a good week one. All right, cheat code.
Mecole Hardman, and I see people making fun of the Mecole Hardman truthers got their ass handed to him. No, they didn't. He ran a route. Let's see, what was it? 83% of the time. That's all we're asking for him to be on the field. Demarcus Robinson was running his wind sprint 70% of the time. That's fine. Byron Pringle wasn't used as much as I thought he would. He had a 20% routes run rate. So I think, especially this week against the Ravens, they're going to do everything they can to try to slow down Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Ultimately, they'll fail. I understand that. But I think Mecole Hardman could break loose for a couple deep plays. He's a great GPP flyer this week. I think people are going to be sleeping on him because he's getting that playing time. And honestly, that's all you're asking for. I think it's only a matter of time before he, pulls in a couple deep passes.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the field with Patrick Mahomes, and there's going to be weeks where he just goes nuts. We're not going to be able to project it necessarily, but I like the idea of kind of when everyone's down on him, buying low. And he did have 4 catches, 81 yards and a touch in the meeting last year. So he had more yards than Tyreek Hill. They both had a touchdown. So.
Nice. Yeah, and so don't play him in cash. Obviously, he has a really low floor, but that ceiling, he's more likely to hit it now that he's actually on the field.
Yep. For me, it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. 25 touches, 134 yards in the meeting last year, but he got 78% of the carries and 68% of routes per dropback. That was about 20% higher in each than I had his baseline heading into the year. So he got substantially more usage than I thought he would in week 1. And again, he was the guy they really leaned on against Baltimore. And, Josh Jacobs with a bum toe, he wasn't that efficient, but he was able to get in the end zone a couple of times. I don't think this Baltimore defense, especially, all these guys in the secondary are dropping left and right. They're going to have to play with Mahomes to pass. Like, they're going to have to play almost like KC plays. And you're like, yeah, you want to run for 4 or 5 yards a pop with Edwards-Helaire, do it, because, guys are dropping like flies on this Baltimore team, but, in the defensive side of the ball now too. I think this could be a sneaky big spot for Edwards-Helaire. So like him in this one. And let's finish up with Lions Packers. Aaron Rodgers passing yards. That got to go there. Just got to.
Yep, here we go. Over under 282.5.
I want to go over. I have it at 280. But this could be a blowout. But I'll probably raise it a little bit because Detroit gave up 11.5 yards per attempt to Jimmy Garoppolo and Deebo Samuel, and the 49ers' true number 1 receiver didn't even catch a pass. So, yeah, it was scary how bad Detroit's pass defense was. So I'll go over. I gotta bump his projection up a couple.
And they lost Okudah. Not that he's like a shutdown corner, but they're really digging into the depth now. So Okudah's out for the season.
Yep.
And yeah, that Aaron Rodgers is out for blood this week. He has to redeem himself.
Relax. So. RELAX. Yeah. Who's your cheat code in this one?
Well, I think obviously you want to attack this Packers offense. I think you can make a case for Aaron Jones, obviously, but I'm going with MVS here. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to air it out here to prove a point. And MVS is the dormant volcano ready to explode this week. He was quiet last week, 3 catches for 17 yards and no touchdowns, but he ran around 70% of the time. So, and he saw a 24% target share. And they've kind of hinted that he'd sort of be the number 2 receiver in this offense. Randall Cobb was pretty much irrelevant. He didn't really come in and play, and he didn't even get a catch until Jordan Love came in the game. So MVS is the number 2 target in this offense. And against this Lions secondary, that's very scary. So I think we could see a massive, massive game from MVS here.
Yeah, MVS, that was kind of the report out of camp that he had pretty much locked up that number 2 job. I think the biggest, not surprise, but Allen Lazard, playing in this, like winning that slot role over Randall Cobb. You kind of thought, Rodgers lobbying for Cobb, maybe that would do it. They also had Rodgers there, but Amari Rodgers, but they went with Lazard as their 3rd guy. So, but yeah, my DFS cheat code is Aaron Rodgers because you kind of mentioned it. I mean, he's going to air it out to prove a point. He's going to be mad, I think. And, Devontae Adams, obviously still there. You have MVS. I think he could get a couple long touchdowns. But again, this is a team that gave up 11.5 yards per attempt to Jimmy G. They gave up, Trey Lance comes in the game, throws his first career pass, touchdown. Like to Trent Sherfield, the guy who was like the special teams receiver on the Cardinals. Like this, and he's had a great camp, so I'm not trying to shit on Trent Sherfield. But look at the numbers for Rodgers against Detroit. Yeah, last year, no interceptions against Detroit, 3 touchdowns in one of them, on 290 yards, 240 and 2 in the other one. So the yardage wasn't always there, but he's going to be efficient. I just think he's going to go off though in this one. I think it's definitely going to be kind of a point proving game for him. So one of those situations where I might put him in my captain spot in some DFS. Usually you try to go with a receiver in tournaments, but Rodgers, I mean, I think MVS is a great play too, though, for a savings in like a captain spot kind of situation. Mm-hmm. So love Adams, love Rodgers, love MVS, love the Packs passing game. Aaron Jones, I mean, he should have a good game too, but I really think everyone's looking at Rodgers right now. Like they're like, oh, he's the guy that messed it up. He's the guy that's doing all this extra stuff and Jeopardy and this, that. So I think they're gonna have to make a point with Aaron Rodgers. So that's going to do it for the Fantasy Flex Week 2 matchup podcast. Be sure to check out the Fantasy Flex feed. Subscribe if you haven't already. Again, we went to the new feed this year, so we could give you 5 episodes per week. You can find Sean on Twitter at @_oddsmaker. You can find me at Chris Raybon. You can find us both at those same handles in the award-winning Action Network app. Be sure to check out our fantasy tool and content at actionnetwork.com and our DFS content at fantasylabs.com. Until next time, let's get this money.